Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as well as the vast majority of crypto and finance. And it seems as though the Treasury went full nuclear today, talking about the debt ceiling, talking about, a debt ceiling catastrophe, and ultimately the US defaulting on its debt. And as you guys do see, here are all the articles lining up. Few people went over to Twitter talking about getting your money out of the banks. And I don't think that that is a bad idea at all. I also do think that everyone should be diversifying outside of crypto into gold and silver. And that means physical, not digital. Making sure you can hold that tangible item in your hand is the best case scenario in terms of, making sure that you are investing in value. So always buy physical gold and silver. I personally am buying quite a bit right now. I'm diversifying outside of crypto, especially even within crypto too, because I do think that this is where a lot of the money is about to be made going forward on in time. But with that, yes, we did see the Treasury go full nuclear today. Here is the video, and we do see when the Secretary of the Treasury admits there is a non-zero risk that the US will default. Is it still a risk-free rate of return? Listen closely to this video.
Early June is when we project that we will run out of cash, and there is a chance it could be as early as June 1st. Of course, there is a lot of uncertainty, and I plan to update Congress as new information becomes available, but that's still our current thinking.
Are there extraordinary measures you can take around that time, or is that it?
Well, really, that's it. We've been using extraordinary measures for several months now, and our ability to do that is running out, and we will start to run down our cash. And our current projection is that in early June, a day will come when we're unable to pay our bills unless Congress raises the debt ceiling.
What happens on that day? Let's assume for the sake of argument it's June 1st. What happens that day if the debt limit has not been extended?
Well, Treasury finds itself in a position where we're unable to pay all of the bills that come due that day. And this would be really the first time in the history of America that we would fail to make payments that are due. And, whether it's defaulting on interest payments that are due on the debt or payments due for Social Security recipients or to Medicare providers, we would simply not have enough cash to meet all of our obligations. And it's widely agreed that financial and economic chaos would ensue.
So like I said, there you guys have it. The Treasury just went full nuclear. But what's crazy about this is that it seems as though this is a scripted interview. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but this sounds extremely scripted. And we already know that, in my opinion, the debt ceiling is 100% going to be raised. We do see down here, like, what if the textbook macro isn't true about risk-free return? This talks about how the government cannot default on its debt and that zero risk of, default. But who knows, right? This is questionable on what's going to happen. We have to wait until June 1st or at least the middle of June or so. But she is saying like June 1st could be the deadline. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But to me, this seems a little bit more like theatrics. It seems like they want to distract the general public. Remember, that FedNow service goes live in the summertime as well, which is very interesting to note. But also, what's crazier about all of this is the Treasury and that $50 trillion budget. So we do see here, Senator Ron Johnson, the Treasury Secretary, was before the Finance Committee talking about President Biden's budget, which would drive that debt up to over $50 trillion. She's either delusional or she's just lying to the American public. And listen closely to this video.
What I learned from Janet Yellen is she is detached from reality as the president is. Admiral Mike Mullen back in the 2010-2011 timeframe said the greatest threat to our national security is our debt and deficit. That's when our debt was at $14 trillion. Now it exceeds $32 trillion, and the Treasury Secretary was before the Finance Committee talking about President Biden, which would drive that debt up to over $50 trillion over the 10-year budget window. And she wouldn't even admit that the massive deficit spending was a major contributor. So she's either delusional or she's just lying to the American public.
And yeah, I mean, like, that's their overall goal. That's the Treasury's goal. They want to hit that $50 trillion mark by 2030. That's 7 years from now. And I've been warning about this for a while. Again, this is also why I say, like, I do believe that that debt ceiling will be raised. And I think that they're going to print the US dollar into oblivion. But it's already been happening, right? As we do look at what's happening outside of the US, and as we look at what's happening within the US, specifically on banks, there's a big problem. Here we have from Stu Peters: alert, US government may freeze American bank withdrawals as currency panic and capital flight mounts. Hedge fund manager Hugh Hendry: this will be catastrophic. US government may freeze American bank withdrawals as currency panic and capital flight mounts, macro guru Hugh Hendry says. And this is very interesting to me. When we actually look at what's happening, though, I would not be surprised. I've actually been discussing this. There's a really good, I want to say it's not so much a book, but it's a full-on breakdown of Ice 9 by Jim Rickards. He talked about it, where we will see bank accounts completely frozen. Your assets not even being able to be touched, withdrawn, anything. Just bank accounts fully frozen. To me personally, I think that this is what's going to happen. I think that they will freeze bank accounts. I think that we are about to see something much more severe than anything that we've ever seen in history. And what this will lead to is a full-on currency reset. Now, I've seen a lot of people talking about this currency reset, talking about how it's going to involve crypto, how it's going to involve XRP and all this kind of stuff. And do I think that that's going to be the case? It's questionable. I've talked about it many times on this channel. I do think that it is a high possibility. But we have to make sure that we are also staying focused on the bigger picture here, which is the idea that they want to introduce a CBDC as well. So we need to make sure that we are, focused up, make sure that we are awake. We can't be falling asleep at the wheel, because we need to make sure that we are focusing on their overall motive here. And that big thing, that FedNow system, that's the biggest thing to focus on right now. But we do see over here, Bank of America has warned that the key threats to the US dollar's dominance are largely domestic, as opposed to competition from other currencies. So now we have Bank of America warning about de-dollarization and how big of a risk this actually is. It really is a big problem. As we do look at the US dollar's dominance, it is in question right now. We actually do see over here, recently, Brazilian President Lula asked, why should every country be tied to the US dollar rather than just trade in its own currency? BRICS countries finalized agreements to trade with each other in their own currencies. So has the de-dollarization started? And this got posted on May 7th. I would say this: if you're questioning on if de-dollarization has started, you haven't been paying attention. It's 100% started. And by the way, that was not a shot thrown at Macro Alf. I actually love Macro Alf's overall content. He does break this fully down on everything that has been happening in terms of, the US dollar's share in global trades and the trading system itself. This is an incredible breakdown of everything around the US dollar and what's been happening recently with the US dollar, especially in terms of denominated foreign debt and all that kind of stuff. Like, there's a lot of problems around the US dollar right now. And it is definitely up for question in terms of de-dollarization and how large of a role it's already been playing in terms of de-dollarization. But to me, I think that it already has started. And over here, we do see Justin, Pakistan is using Chinese yuan to purchase 750,000 barrels of Russian crude oil. Following the delivery of the first shipment, regular deliveries are expected to commence. Their decision to use Chinese yuan is said to be part of the ongoing BRICS de-dollarization efforts. And we've been focused on what BRICS have been doing, because I even told you guys that Saudi Arabia is also a big one to watch right now. Obviously, yes, I know Saudi Arabia isn't part of the BRICS just yet, but they did express their overall interest in joining the BRICS. And once they do so, that's going to be a big problem for the US dollar, because I've even talked about the petrodollar deal. I think that that is the thread that's holding the US dollar to any sort of intricate value. Now, also over here, we do see the world's largest regional organization, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, plans to switch to settlements in national currencies, moving away from the US dollar. This was also a big deal. And this is going to become a major trend to watch, especially over here as we do see 24 countries ready to accept BRICS currency. This is a big deal. It's moving extremely fast day in and day out. Everyone should make sure to focus on what the BRICS are doing. And I've been focused on the BRICS since going back I want to say, to March 2022. And even then, beforehand, the Brics have been stockpiling gold since going back to 2010. So to me, I think that they waited for the perfect time to strike, and now they are going after it. And they're going full force. They're not slowing down. They continue to make sure that they are expanding. They continue to make sure that they are focused on de-dollarization. They are on a war path against the US dollar. This is financial war right now. They have moved significantly away from the US dollar and significantly away from SWIFT. And I think that all of this is building up for one big move. And guess what that is? Well, first off, we go over here to Brian Armstrong. US bank failures made people look again at crypto and think about it as an alternative system. Listen closely to this video.
Let's talk about the most recent announcement. You're expanding internationally as tensions with the US regulators grow. Coinbase has just announced an international crypto derivatives exchange. Walk me through the strategic rationale. How is this going to work?
Yeah, so again, the mission at Coinbase is to increase economic freedom in the world. We think crypto is the most important technology to do that. And so that means we need to be doing that globally. Everybody in the world can benefit from this technology. And so although we started in the US, we're now live in a number of different markets around the world. And so there's been a big focus for us on international expansion. In the Western Hemisphere, we've done that, of course, in the US. We've done it with a license that we've gotten in Bermuda to serve other regions there. But in this region of the world where I am here today in Dubai, we feel that the UAE is a really important hub that we can invest in to serve this region of the world, the Middle East, Africa, even India, where there's a major remittance corridor. And so I think the UAE deserves a lot of credit for their commitment to crypto regulation. They're putting out a clear rule book. They even have a dedicated regulator that's specific to crypto called DVARA here in Dubai. And I think they deserve a ton of credit for being both business forward, embracing this technology and its potential, but also putting out clear rules to protect consumers. So that's very attractive to us as a US company to come invest here.
Would Coinbase ever move overseas if Congress and regulators in the United States can't provide clear rules of the road? It seems as if you have a big issue with regulation stateside right now.
So Coinbase is not going to relocate overseas. I mean, we're always going to have a US presence, and I can talk a bit about some of the efforts that we're making there to get regulatory clarity in the US. But the US is a little bit behind right now, I would say. We're seeing more thoughtful approaches. For instance, in the EU, they've actually already passed comprehensive crypto legislation. The UK has been incredibly welcoming and for us there, and that's been a hub where we've decided to serve the UK market. And now I think with the UAE, we're very interested in looking at this space as well. I mean, this is my first trip to the UAE, by the way. I'm here to learn and listen and meet with the relevant regulators, both in Abu Dhabi and here in Dubai, and decide if this is a good place for us to serve a large region of the world.
So walk me through what you would like to see from regulators in the US. As you say, the United States has perhaps been falling behind when it comes to cryptocurrency regulation and the definition of cryptocurrencies. What do you need to see from the regulator in order to continue to have your business function as a going concern?
Yeah, well, in the US, what we'd really like to see is a clear rule book. That's how it should work. The regulator should publish a clear rule book. The companies should be expected to follow it. Right now, there's not a clear rule book in the US, and in the absence of that clarity, Coinbase has really showed a lot of good faith effort to do the right thing and introduce the right kind of controls and audits that we believe protect consumers. We shared all of this with the SEC when we were thinking about becoming a public company, and they allowed us to become a public company with full knowledge of how our business operates. Really, nothing has changed since we've done that. And so we still believe that we're operating in a fully compliant manner. And by the way, I should say, most of the US, the people that I meet with in Congress, the other federal regulator, the CFTC, even the White House and others, they're actually quite positive. I think the broad consensus view in the US government is that there should be a clear rule book, and this is going to require new legislation from Congress. The SEC is a bit of an outlier here. There's kind of a lone crusade, if you will, with Gary Gensler, the chair there. And he has taken a more anti-crypto view for some reason. I don't think he's necessarily trying to regulate the industry as much as maybe curtail it. But he's created some lawsuits, and I think it's quite unhelpful for the industry in the US writ large. But it also is an opportunity for Coinbase to go get that clarity from the courts that we feel will really benefit the crypto industry and also the US more broadly.
And I do think that as we do look at the overall traditional world of finance, I think that as these banks are failing, I think that as the Treasury is going full-blown nuclear and, you know, the overall system is failing itself, you know, I think that a lot of attention is going to look for crypto. I think a lot of people are going to come over to crypto, start parking their dollars in crypto. I think that we're going to see a major amount of liquidity flowing into this asset class because I think a lot of people are noticing something very large happening here. And I think that that is the idea that, you know, one, the traditional world of finance has failed and it needs a facelift. A lot of people, like I said, have been talking about XRP and XLM. For an example, this video got posted by Black Swan Capitalist over on Twitter. What you see, the end game is to devalue the currency before introducing the new system. And I've talked about this. I do think that this is all by plan. Is XRP the new financial system? It's questionable, right? We've talked about that. Is XRP the global bridge currency? Well, Ripple, we already know Ripple is positioning it as that global bridge currency. So I can definitely see that. Now, is XRP the new financial system? It's a little questionable, right? But listen closely to this video.
Congress, in essence, has ceded total control of the value of our money to a secretive central bank. Congress created the Federal Reserve, yet it had no constitutional authority to do so. We forget that those powers not explicitly granted to the Congress by the Constitution are inherently denied to the Congress, and thus the authority to establish a central bank was never given.
So yeah, just the idea around a lot of things happening within the U.S. financially, it's pretty much all a joke. It's all a big show, if you will. And that's why I do think that a lot of this is by plan. Very similar to that first, you know, overall interview. Like, I think that this was fully structured. I think that this was a planned interview. I think that it was all scripted. And I think that this is just a game of, okay, how good of a show can we put on for the general public to fearmonger and distract them away from the bigger picture here. And that bigger picture is that we are about to see a major currency reset. I think that we are about to see a global financial reset as well. And I think it's going to be centered out on digital currencies. You know, how will XRP play into it? Well, I do think that XRP will probably be a bridge currency or settlement token. Same with XLM. I think that XRP is designed, developed, and ultimately focused on the B2B sector in terms of cross-border payment settlement, and also becoming a bridge currency around that space. And then XLM is more so P2P. I've talked about this many times on this channel. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, to the notifications on because of more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me over on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. This is up to you all. Have a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are on this beautiful world. It's been Nick. Peace out, guys.